Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Final Whistle here on the Bama Standard Network, your home for all things Alabama football related content. And yes, I'm with my rowdy group of guys with me. But before I introduce them, hit that like, subscribe button, get in the chat, get in the comments. You see, we got a special, amazing guest, but we're going to save his introductions for a few later. Let me introduce my cast. Chris James, number 32 on the field, number one in your hearts. How are you?
Man, that line gets me every week, dog. I'm great, man. How are you guys, man? Ready for a good show tonight?
A great show, man. I'm so excited about this show. Dan James, our lead recruiting analyst. How are you today?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm always good. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
How are the ladies at the nursing home? You treating them right?
Yeah, a little Bengay here, there, Ovaltine.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, good friend of ours, Final Whistle analyst, Lushawn Graves. How are you today, sir?
You know, I'm good. It's Tuesday. Y'all know what it's about to be. I'm curious. I got questions, and I'm here to listen. Let's go. I'm excited. Let's get it.
And let's go. And ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, the legend from T-Town, the one and only, Mr. Daniel Petty. How are you today, sir?
Man, I'm excited. We got a special guest in the house. I think most people, if you're a Bama fan and have been on social media at all in the past few months, you've probably heard a few stories from this guy. So we're excited to have a special guest on to learn us some stuff tonight.
For sure. And special, before we get to our special guest, we want to shout out our sponsors, workspacesolutions.com. If you want to take your digital online presence to the next level, go to workspacepros.com. That's Workspace Solutions, your digital marketing at workspacepros.com. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Tyler Siskey is here. Petty, I'm gonna let you introduce him because you know him. I've just known him from outside looking in, listening to his amazing stories. Let's roll the red carpet for this guy. Give him the proper intro that he deserves here on the Final Wilson.
Absolutely. I won't do as good as some of the wrestling promos y'all throw out, but man, this guy, he has been around the coaching ranks, been around the football ranks. And I mean, when I say been around, he's been around some of the biggest names in coaching, has some of the best stories. Like I said earlier, unless you've had your head in the sand, you've heard some of his stories on social media about some of the crazy Saban stories he's busted out here lately on the show with Neil McCready. Tyler Siskey, man, glad to have you here, buddy. I really want to start off with you telling us, like, I don't think you got when you were here a week ago to tell the crowd a little bit about you. Like you're from Alabama, Jacksonville area.
Born and raised in Anniston, Alabama. They actually built a statue of me. It's right behind the porta potty when you come off of I-20 right there. They put it out there. No, born and raised in Anniston, Alabama. Left there and went to the Plains and played at Auburn. I was there from 96 to 98. When Tuberville got the job, there's a video. You can check out the rest of that story.
Yeah, he's your favorite. He's your favorite coach, right? Y'all are still pen pals.
Yeah, we're really close, man. We're real tight. So
fly you up to DC, Eddie?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, all the time. Yeah, I was at the Secret Service committee here, and me and him were sitting next to each other, passing Pop-Tarts. Went down there I was there 96, 98. When he became the head coach, I left and finished my career at Troy. Larry Blakeney, I went from somebody showing me how not to do it to somebody showing me how to do it. Larry Blakeney is probably meant more to me in my career than any coach. He is a stud of studs. He got me into coaching. I would like to give you the good story, but man, I was playing and I blew my knee out. I actually did get hurt, but I wasn't even playing football. I was helping my dad paint a house in the summer. Going into my fifth year, fell 37 and a half feet off of a roof.
Wow.
And that ended, and that was on June the 23rd of 2000 in Wedowee, Alabama. And then I was in the hospital when Coach Blakeney called and said, "Hey, I know you're done as far as can't play anymore." And he said, "I got a spot coaching, receivers, assistant coach Rowell with receivers. Would you be interested?" And I was going to be a high school coach. That was kind of my plan, right? I was like, "Yeah, I'm in." And so I was kind of, finish up my undergrad there. Got on with Steve Roberts at the end of that year. Was first year that had been this 2000 season at Troy as I guess student assistant technically. Got on with Steve Roberts as the tight ends coach at Northwestern State in 2001. And then we won, and he got the job at Arkansas State. So I went with him to Arkansas State after being at Natchitoches, Louisiana. That's a place, boy. Y'all need to go take y'all road trip to Natchitoches, Louisiana. Yeah, write that one down. Make sure you go put that on your vacation spot list right there.
Will.
And so went to Jonesboro with him. Was there 2 years. Was a GA. Got married. Had to get a real job. So I became a high school coach, which was the original plan, and took a high school job at St. Paul's Episcopal in Mobile, Alabama. And I had some really good players, some that's done the Crimson Tide very well over the years. I had a starting quarterback named A.J. McCarron. I had a backup quarterback named Jake Coker. I had a guy named Mark Barron on there, and we had some really good players that make you look like a really good coach.
Made your job kind of easy.
I haven't met you.
It was like playing a video game on freshman mode. I can tell you that. It was pretty easy. But anyway, did that for 4 years, and then Coach Roberts called me back. Got a full-time job. Got the receivers job back at Arkansas State. Was there for 4 years. At the end, the last 2 years at Arkansas State, Hugh Freeze came the first year's offensive coordinator, then got the head coaching job. Was with him, went with him to Ole Miss, and then this guy named Nick Saban called me out of the blue, and went to Tuscaloosa for a couple years, and then probably should have stayed another year or two. Was probably a little impatient. If I ever look, somebody asked me that the other day. Maybe it was the day. If I had one mistake in my career, if looking back, I probably was a little impatient leaving. I just wanted to get back on the field really bad and get back on my path. So I took a receiver's job at South Alabama. Was there for 3 years with Joey before I went back to Ole Miss with Matt Luke, and then shut it down. Then we get fired because somebody decides to act like a dog and pee in the end zone, runs our ass out of town, and then I start. Then all of a sudden I'm on a podcast talking to you guys. I don't know what the hell happened.
So what are you doing now? You're still in it though, or you're doing you work with a scouting program, right?
Yeah, I actually got the idea when I was working at Alabama on kind of how we did things. I own a company called Quick U, and basically I've done the same thing I've always done. The same thing I did at Alabama, except instead of doing it for one school, I'm doing it for 40. So. And it's really cool because nobody can hire or fire me. I'm my own boss, and I don't care where they go. So I just do the work. So it's like a win-win. I don't have to do a photo shoot. I don't have to play the games with the street agents. Hey, I go to the house. I'm good. Nice. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. You know what I mean?
Also, I mean, do you see yourself getting back in the game? I mean, is there anything that could pull you back into it?
Yeah, I mean, I never say never, right? I'm a big believer in that. Good Lord's got his own plan for me, and I always, that's one of my favorite sayings. If you ever want to make God laugh, tell him about your plans, and it'll make you chuckle. You never say never, but it would have to be the right situation with the right people. I've been very, very lucky in my career to be around good people, as far as good to work for, and learned a lot. And I think that's really important when you're a coach. It can't be just for the paycheck, right? It's got to be the right situation. And I never say never, but I'm very happy with what I'm doing.
Good stuff. Well, man, to transition a little bit, you've got one of the things we love. I'm really excited about having you on, and I know Lushawn he's a big defensive guy, and he's really this is what he's most interested in. But your journeys have taken you at Ole Miss. You coached with Dave Womack, Kane's dad. Was Kane? Yeah, Kane was on the staff though too, right? Is that what y'all?
Yeah, I got to see Kane at the start of his career. He was a GA for us, so I got to see him. I've seen him at the beginning and I've seen him in his whole career. You know what I mean? I've known his. I worked with his dad at Arkansas State to Ole Miss, and then Kane came with us, and he was at Tennessee Martin before that, and then he came to us as a GA when we got the job there. Was with him there. and then again with Kane at South Alabama. And then obviously he's one of my real good friends. And so when he came back, he was the defense coordinator at South Alabama. Then when I went to Ole Miss, he went to Indiana, then he came back as a head coach, and he's a real good friend of mine. He was on our show weekly, when he was during the season last year as a head coach. I don't think he can get away with that as a coordinator. Head coach, you can do those kind of things. I don't think Kalen will be too fired up about him doing our show every week in the middle of the season. I don't know if he's fired up about, hey, 2:00, I got to get on the McCready and Siskey podcast. Kalen probably knows that.
You think Kalen will be as strict on assistant interviews as Coach was?
No, Saban? He's not. He's not for sure. You can already tell that. The coordinators have already done in the last 6 months. Coordinators have done more interviews at Alabama than they did in the 15 years prior.
Right. You ain't lying about that.
So tell that, man. That's one thing I want to ask you. We're gonna get. I mean, we know you love the X's and O's side. You really love talking the football. What Bama fans? Hey, man. One thing Saban set a standard was defense. That's one thing you never had to worry about was Nick Saban was going to have some dudes on defense that could get it done. And again, you got to coach with Womack under his system, which I'm assuming Kane's system and his dad's are the same. And then you saw Saban.
They're different.
Oh, are they different?
Yeah,
so what can Bama fans expect? What are they going to be what are the huge differences? Is it defense? Is it legit, man? What?
Yeah, I think the one thing with Kane's a really big student of the game. The one thing I think Kane has done so well in as a coach and as he's grown. Man, what y'all pour me over there, dog?
I poured him a cocktail.
Let's go. I mean, you pass it. Let's go.
Are you drinking anything night, Siskey, other than rain?
I got water right here, dog. I can, but I'm trying to be good. I'm on somebody else's podcast. If it was my podcast.
No, you could. Dude, they have a Bloody Mary counter from our Saturday show for how many Bloody Marys I drink.
Would you like some Cabassier?
No, he went to go get a drink. We just got him to go get
somebody,
a cocktail.
Somebody.
I didn't have to go far, then.
Okay.
This is the final whistle, everybody.
Hey.
Kane's a student of the game, and the thing that Kane I think has done really well in his career is you got to remember when Kane started as a GA. And the same thing with me is like my career he's younger than I am, but he still, when he started, was more of the very front end of the quote unquote spread offenses, right? And the read zones and all that stuff. And now we're into this world of RPOs, which changed everything, right? And and RPOs have been around for a while with screen game and things like that. But when you start pushing RPOs down the field, it's that's not throwing the bubble screen, right? That's not throwing the stick draw. You start getting different things. And so you have to be a little bit more vision technique with the safeties and things like that. But he has done a great job adapting as new things come into the scheme. So I think when you're talking about what you're going to see with Alabama defense, the look of what Coach Saban did and what every defensive coordinator did, because it was the same system, the same look, the same 3-4 principle, the jack. And, he's going to be in sub most of the time. So you guys that play defense there, you'll know what sub is. That's nickel personnel for everybody else. Okay, he's going to stay in sub most of the time, but he's called that position, whatever his school's at, he's called a different position. We call it the Husky, and that system is called the Husky. That has nothing to do with Washington, by the way. I don't even know where that term came from because that's what his dad called it. That is going to be a little bit more emphasis on that position and in that scheme. You got to have a guy there, right? And that's kind of because you're going to ask a ton from him. You're going to ask a ton from run support, especially in today's world, because everybody's odd front, right? So now odd front is put in there to stop inside zone. That's why everybody is going odd. The other reason is it's more multiple. All right. Well, when you stop zone, what are you going to get? You're going to get gap scheme. And so everybody's going to try to run counter, whether I call counter two to the party, whether it be guard and tackle or guard and tight end or whoever, bringing two to the front side. And so you got to have guys to spill. And then he's going to put a lot on his boundary safety. So you're going to see a lot of things that you're going to say, oh, this is the same stuff, because a lot of it is very eerily similar. But he's going to be a little bit more multiple out of it than even Coach Saban was. And he's going to be a little bit more aggressive as far as bringing pressure. But that's probably what you're going to see. But and they line up, it's going to look the same probably the first snap from an alignment standpoint.
Guys, y'all got Lou. I know you got anything. I know y'all got any questions to ask.
I can talk scheme all night now. Y'all,
I know you can. That's why I think
let's go.
Well, we got a former defensive back and a former receiver and a defensive guru, like a defensive lover above you. I'm sure they got some questions on that.
Let's go. I love scheme, man. I can talk all night long.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that Malachi Moore is the best fit for that free safety position? I know from a lining up the defense, from a back end standpoint, it's a no-brainer. But is he that sideline guy?
You talking about for the Husky spot?
No, he's playing the free, isn't he?
No, I'm saying, are you saying would he be the best for that spot? Or are you just talking about?
Yeah, pretty much for the as opposed to free safety.
Yeah, so I'll tell you who would have been the perfect. I don't know his. I haven't worked. You know what I'm saying? I haven't been to practice and seen him move. I got to see. I will tell you who my experience with would have been the most perfect Husky in the history of mankind, and that's Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Woo! Yeah,
those kind of guys. Like you got to have a Husky it's a rare breed, man. You got to be long like a safety, but you got to have some piss and vinegar where you're gonna go knock the shit. Can I cuss on the show?
Yes.
All right, you can go knock the
Christian
shit.
show still now.
Yeah, you got to go. You got to be able to knock.
Hell yeah!
You know what I'm saying? You got to knock the shit out of somebody. You can't. Yeah. You can't like a lot of nickels are like, oh, we just got to have somebody that can cover a split tight end, right? No, you got to be able to do a little bit of everything. So we've had some really good ones in that system. I'll tell you who we had that played the position like still playing Mike Hilton. That also played. All right, so Mike Hilton played that spot. And Mike Hilton wasn't a big dude, but he'd knock your ass out, right?
Yeah.
And so we had Mike Hilton playing that spot. We had a guy named Tony Connor that probably was
I remember Tony.
But he got hurt and he never was right when he came back.
Yeah. He played it until he met Leonard from
No, it was Derrick Henry that took.
I'm leave that alone.
I can't remember. I don't remember how he got hurt.
Tony got hurt in the Alabama game. Henry hit him in the knee.
Yeah, I know his knee was just gone. And then we had a guy. A matter of fact, kid was from Town Creek, Alabama, where they got something in the water in Town Creek. That's where that's where the real players. If you ever want to know where real players are from in Alabama, they don't do nothing but breed football players in Town Creek, Alabama. So Don Jones, small town for the people that don't know where Town Creek is, a very small town in northwest Alabama. But Don Jones, we had at Arkansas State, was from Town Creek, and he played that position for us at Arkansas State and played like 7 years in the league. So that position has got to be like Minkah would have been perfect for it. I'm trying to think somebody else would have been really good for it. That's probably the best one. Ronnie Harrison would have been good for it.
Oh, I love it.
So you got to have a physical safety that can actually cover guys, particularly with split tight ends and things like that.
Is Malachi not running in that spot? It seems like that's tailor-made for Moore. Nope.
I don't know. I don't know his game well enough to comment. I don't know that because I haven't. I mean, I know his game. I know who he is, but I haven't seen him in that system. But I will tell you this: whoever's lined up at nickel is a bad dude. Come first game, you can go ahead and you can chalk that one up.
So who's playing that? Is Keon Saab? Is he playing the Rover?
So Rover is what he refers to as his weak side safety.
I think is that Saab, y'all?
No, I thought Saab was playing Husky, and there was a battle between Red Morgan and Devontae Smith for the backside.
I will say
and
this: I know there's a lot of because to me, when you look at objectively, when you look at Alabama, I think they're going to be good on offense. I think it's going to be different, and I think it's going to cause a lot of people in this league have been running against the same plays for the last 15 years. Mm-hmm. Different people call them, but it's the same plays. I think the schematics with Milroe, they're going to be able to score points. I feel confident in that. Defensively, I told somebody about this the other day. I don't remember what show I was on or if it was on my show. I don't even remember. But when Alabama plays Wisconsin is going to throw it all over the lot. If you feel good about your DBs after the Wisconsin game, it's going to be a really good year in Tuscaloosa. As fast as the DBs can grow up. Now, look, they are talented. There is not a short of talent. Just how fast do they grow up? The bonus here is Kane's got a little bit of advantage here because coach develops, man. Those kids, if they've been there at all, they're going to be fine. If I don't care if you've never even heard of the dude. If he was on the team last year, he's going to be just fine because he develops guys that well. You may not have heard of them, but they're going to be good, right? If as quick as they grow up is how good the year is going to go, in my opinion. I'm talking about big picture.
Yeah.
You know, and I think they'll be fine towards the end of the year regardless. But how that Wisconsin game, and I don't think Alabama's in danger of losing the game by any stretch of imagination. I'm just talking about how do you feel about your DBs after that, if that makes sense.
I noticed guys like Bryson Hubbard had a great 8-day game. Like,
oh yeah, I was impressed.
Yeah, man, you could tell that those young guys were hungry, you know, started to grow up. And just the uncle of Wokwo, however you pronounce his name, for him to have been on campus for like 2 to 3 months, that dude had a heck of a I mean, he looked like a seasoned veteran at linebacker, and he's a German kid that just came from overseas.
I got a question.
Go ahead. Yeah, go for it, Matt.
I got a question. Regarding Kane Womack, could you kind of go in depth of, you know, how does he rotate a lot of players? You know, does that keep him versatile? You know, is that kind of something that what makes his defense a little bit unique? Just kind of playing to his player personnel, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be, you know, the game, it was going through a huge, I'm talking about the game of football, it's going through a huge change, right? You know, when you talk about, I remember the year before I got to Alabama, I remember this being on the board in the defensive staff room. You know, Alabama was like 73% regular personnel the year before I got there. The year I was there, they were 73% sub or 73% nickel. So the game overnight changed in the SEC with Hugh and Gus. I mean, everything changed. Sumlin came in. Everybody started coming in, you know, spreading out. And so now in today's SEC, you're going to stay in nickel. You're really, your substitutions personnel-wise is going to be from nickel to dime. You know, Coach was a little bit more – Coach Saban was probably a little bit more what we call, you know, dime rabbits or whatever. Y'all probably heard that 1,000 times, but he's putting pass rush guys, which is see, this is how my Alabama stories come to me. You're going to laugh. So it's like my man, Tim Williams. Okay. The best pass rusher that ever lived on that God ever created was Tim Williams. Okay. Tim Williams didn't know what day it was, but by gosh, when Tosh or whoever turned around and went money, and started yelling dime rabbits, Tim was like, oh, it's time for me to go sack the quarterback. Like he had to. I guarantee you, if you did a study, I bet you Tim Williams affected the quarterback more than any player in the history of the NCAA. Every single play he was in there, he pressured the quarterback. Wow. And so that's all he waited for was this. So Coach was really big on specializing inside the personnel groupings. Does that make sense? Like he had dime and then he had dime rabbits. Okay. And so, you know, he was really big on that. You're going to see a little bit from that, Kane, I imagine. It's just going to be based on personnel. Kane's smart, right? If that's what it takes to get the quarterback, he's going to do it. And then you see, you know, red zone and things like that, things change and you have to match up personnel. That's really the only time things change because, you know, I'd say 90%, 95% of your snaps in the SEC are going to be made in 11 and 12 personnel from an offensive standpoint.
Great comment. One more question.
Yeah.
Back to X's and O's. What do you feel like would be the biggest challenge offensive-wise? You know, you got going up against guys like Sark, Lane Kiffin. You're going against some top offensive coordinators. What do you think would be in this defense? What do you think is the most challenging part in Kane Womack's defense? I know Saban's defense, you know, having to deal with a versatile quarterback will always put pressure on a Nick Saban defense, you know, and he could throw it. So I just kind of wanted to know what was kind of the biggest threat almost for Womack's defense.
That's a good question. I don't know if there's a scheme that you can point out to say it's going to attack it. I mean, because that's what – I mean, it would have to be something completely different, right? Like, you know, nobody runs anymore, but nobody wants to face the option.
I was going to say wishbone.
Yeah, nobody wants to face the option. Now we played it at South Alabama. We played Air Force in bowl game, and that was fun. But you know, something like that. But like even then, if you got time to prepare for it, it's all assignment football, and you'll be fine if you got time to prepare for it. That's why like if you see like you remember when Georgia Tech they ran triple and all that stuff. Yeah. That's why Georgia Tech could never do anything in bowl games because you had too long to prepare for it. But anything, there's not really anything tricky that would take you out of that would make that uncomfortable, if that makes sense. There's nothing out there again, triple option, but they don't have that on the schedule. So that's the only thing you got to work out. But the triple option would causes everybody problems on short notes and no reps.
It does. Guys,
It's assignment football, right? Because if you have to play assignment football, I got dive, you got quarterback, I got pitch. If you got to play assignment football, and eventually they're going to find a formation and motion or something that's going to cause you problems. So that's why that becomes tricky.
Great. Lushawn, Dan?
Yeah. So with the Womack's defensive scene coming into the SEC, do you see an increase in the amount of turnovers that Alabama has had over the last few seasons?
I mean, it's probably going to be honest with you. It's probably going to depend on the back end, right? I mean, if they can, but he has been known like he focuses on turnovers. That's one of his babies, right? And he always has. So it's going to be a point of emphasis. But I don't want to. I mean, it's very coach speak to say that. In my opinion, I'm going to be honest with you. Every damn defensive coordinator in the history of time wants 1,000 turnovers, so that they all try to get them every play. Like they'll say, "Hey, we're focusing on turnovers." Well, hell, shit. So is everybody else. And so, but schematically, I think. Where I think it's an advantage is like I said, they may line up and you may like, damn, this looks just like the same alignment and everything else. The back end will be a little bit different in how they teach the coverages. Safeties will probably be a little heavier footed than you've seen in the past, due to the RPO and how they stop that. And that can create and really shrink the windows, especially for the RPOs over the wheel and the mic with the glances on the inside glances by the slots. But yeah, he's everybody focuses on it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if it can be any more. I mean, Coach pretty damn good now. There's been some pretty good dudes on the old home sideline calling plays. I mean, there's been some pretty good dudes over there. So yeah, he fits right with them though, for sure.
That's kind of what I was going to ask, Tyler. When you're playing sports, you kind of know when you're playing with a dude that's a little bit different. When I moved to Tuscaloosa, one of my best friends who ended up playing pro baseball, I could tell at the time he was different than I was. Same goes for coaching. Could you see that in Kane early? Like, man, this dude's a damn savant.
Yeah, I could tell really early because when he was a GA, I would try to get him to do stuff and he wouldn't think he was a GA. So he used to piss me off all the time. No, but I'm joking. The thing with Kane is he's been around the game for so long. I don't know how well y'all know his dad. His dad, I think the world of his dad. His dad's one of the best defensive coordinators to ever walk this planet. He's one of the smartest human beings. That's Dave Wommack. He's had his last stop, at Ole Miss, he had a number one defense in the country, I think 2 years in a row, or top 2 or 3. He is as good as they come, and I respect Dave. And so he's been around it a long time. So he kind of had a cheat code a little bit. He gets to hang out with one of the smartest ones. Mm-hmm. But the thing about Kane, and I say this, and I'm glad he's getting his due here, is Kane doesn't take that for granted. You know what I mean? Like a lot of guys are born on third base, is what we like to call it in the business. Where you're born on third base, you're somebody's son, or somebody, and you kind of get a head start in the business ahead of everybody, and they don't take advantage of it. Kane worked just like he was. Kane studied like he didn't know anything. I mean, he listens, he studies. He's always searching to do better. He never thinks his way is the right way or the highway. He's going to find a way to win. You know what I mean? And that's what I always liked about him is no matter what happened, or the situation, he's always looking to get better no matter the result. So he never feels like he's made it or solved the problem. He's always trying to get better.
Good stuff. Well, man, I know you talk about winning. Bama fans take winning pretty damn serious. I know you probably figured that out when you coached here. They're a little bit crazy. But you're on another podcast. Do what?
Especially on defensive coaches. The game changed when you go no huddle tempo, and he gave up like 2 more points. Y'all ready to fire people?
Oh yeah, kill now. On one hand, everybody's telling you, "Hey, football's changed, made it better for offense." But yet, when you're not shutting them down to 0 points, what the hell? You told us, but why the hell ain't you fixing it?
All right, so I can say this now. This used to kill me all the time. If any time that the defense played really well at Alabama, y'all and call me a liar. I dare anybody to call me a liar. Anytime the defense played well at Alabama, every fan in America was like, Saban had him coached up today. Saban did a great job. if they gave up 20 points, it's like fire Pete Golden's ass. Fire. It's all the coordinator's fault. It's all the coordinator's fault. Nick never coached. Nick never coached. Had a bad defensive game plan the entire time he was there. I didn't know if y'all knew that.
Yeah. 100% nailed the Bama fan base now.
Yeah,
that's us.
But you are on a podcast that's not predominantly Bama, and there is a feeling out there that when the greatest of all time steps down, that there's going to be a step. They're going to take a step back. It's only the natural progression, right? You've been pretty vocal to tell people to hold their damn horses on that thought train across the country.
Hey, look, Petty, I'm not going to be the one. Like every year, I've been doing podcasts 2 or 3 years now. Every single damn year, it's like Alabama, the dynasty's over.
It's done.
And every year they're wrong. Every damn year they're wrong. And so I'm gonna be wrong this. It's like playing the casino, man. You just keep saying they're gonna win, and you're gonna be right more than you're the casino. Don't be the guy. Don't be the guy that's pulling the slot machine at Wind Creek. I hope they're not a sponsor. But don't go to Wind Creek and pull a slot and think you're gonna win money. It's different laws. Like it's like you can't. There's no way. People don't understand Kalen DeBoer. It's something that they don't know. Here's the truth, okay? And I get it. People don't like change. People in general don't like change. And most of the time, I would say 99.9% of the time, the fans or the administration get to choose when a coach is done. Y'all understand? Like they fire him, okay? 99.9% of the time, very few times does a coach leave on good terms. And he left. He was left out on top. That just doesn't happen in coaching, because you're either leaving because you get fired or you're taking another job, and now your fan base is pissed at you, right? So it just doesn't happen very often. With that being said, they don't know who Kalen DeBoer is. It was, oh my gosh, we're getting this guy from Washington, and the farthest south he's ever been is Carbondale, Illinois. He's not going to know how to recruit the South. Like, what in the hell does that have to? Like, do you know how many living rooms I've been in my lifetime?
3 or 4.
Yeah, just a couple. Probably. I'm being serious. I'll probably be. It's well into the thousands, right? Yeah. The first conversation is never, hey, I went to Chicago. They didn't go, hey, coach, you don't belong up here. I go out to Compton, California. They don't go, hey, coach, you don't belong here. Nobody gives a shit. Are you giving me a scholarship or not? You know what I mean? Like, nobody cares about where you're from. Right. And so at the end of the day, everybody's, well, he's not going to be able to recruit. Well, he just said, hold my Miller Lite and watch this. Are they still number one class? I know he's got 5 stars. All right. So he can't recruit. He can't recruit the South. Well, hell, they're the top class in the country. And they're like, oh, well, he can't coach. He can't coach in the SEC. And look, I'm the biggest SEC homer there is. Okay. Love it. Lived it, the whole deal. But sometimes the elitist mindset that the only football that's ever played here is in the SEC, it's not accurate. It bothers me. The guy's lost 12 games in his life as a head coach. I want you and he didn't do it at Texas or Georgia. He's done it at Fresno State. Mm-hmm. He did it. I mean, the guy's lost 12 freaking games, and he's won 109? Is that right? Is that 100 and something?
Yeah, I think
108.
Yeah.
Like, what are we? The guy can't. You telling that guy can't coach? Like, some of the best coaching in college football takes place on lower levels.
That's true.
Because, and here's why: in the SEC, for the history of the SEC, they beat you on signing day.
Talent.
Yeah. They beat you on signing day. Our DNA is better than your DNA. That's how the SEC beats you. Okay. So when you're at the lower levels, you don't got that shit. You got to figure out how to scheme some people up. You know what I mean? You got to figure out how to do it another way. And so I really appreciate him because he has worked his way up. You know, he's he's won every level. I said the same thing about Brian Kelly. You remember how everybody said Brian Kelly wasn't going to work at LSU? Yeah. The dude has literally won at every level in America. What makes him think he can't win at LSU? You know, and so like coaches can coach. So I'm a believer in that. I'm not going to be the one. Y'all can. I will not be the one to pick that the dynasty is going to end anytime soon. It's not even in checking up. You know what I mean? Like he didn't put it in neutral. I mean, he hadn't even pushed the clutch in. I don't know what we're talking about.
I've said several times he built LSU and wasn't near as long good enough to where the Grass Eater won a national title, and I don't think the Grass Eater's on DeBoer's level.
Yeah, I just think that I think that again, I think Alabama. I think they're going to be. I think at worst it's 10-2. But here's the problem. Here's the problem for college football: is there's a 12-team playoff now. Because when you get to 12 teams, guess what the record is? It's 0-0. And so you're going to get and Alabama teams always get better at the end. So that's probably the worst thing that ever happened to college football is the 12-team playoff, because Georgia's going to get in for as long as Kirby's there. Alabama's going to get in, and both of those teams are going to get better as the year goes on. And nobody wants to go. I mean, nobody wants to play any of them teams in the playoffs, man. It's be careful what you wish for, because you just may get it.
Right. Give them more of a chance. Well, man, that gives me a chance to say a little bit. You were talking about Justin Fowler. Oh, go. You got a question, Lou?
Comment.
No, this Darius Fountain guy.
We want to get your take on this comment, Tyler. Talking about Alabama's 5th or 6th best in the SEC. Plus, we have an average quarterback. I think you kind of alluded to how DeBoer, Milroe is going to, change some things up offensively. But can you address this as a whole?
Yeah, you're getting trolled, man. You got to appreciate the trolls.
Yeah,
we
got them.
You got to appreciate the trolls, man. Look, I mean, when you look at the SEC this year, I think it's going to be a really unique year. In my opinion, I think, and this is going to piss off everybody too. I'm just being honest. I see it. I call it like I see it. I think Georgia and Texas right now have the 2 best rosters in the league. Now, remember what I said, rosters, right? I think they had the 2 best rosters in the league. And then I think you have a huge group right there. I think Ole Miss is up there. I think Alabama's there. LSU can be there if they get their depth on defense. They have to stay healthy. If LSU can stay healthy on the defensive side of the ball, they will be there in that class. You got Tennessee sitting there. And then Missouri because of their schedule. I don't know if y'all have talked about this or not, right?
We have.
And what I'm about to say is, like, the difference this year that's really kind of unfair is the scheduling. Yeah. So you got Missouri. You got have y'all looked at Missouri's schedule?
Bama's Bama's road game at Tuscaloosa is their biggest landmine.
And so, like, they can be just a good team. Just be a good team. They don't even have to be what they were last year. Just be a good team, and they're sitting at 10-2 at worst. And then you look at Florida's. I mean, I don't know what Georgia's record would be if they had Florida's schedule. I mean, that's I actually think Florida is going to be a really good football team.
Me too.
But their record may not be. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just you got this imbalance in schedules. And
well, look at Texas and Oklahoma. Oklahoma got the short end of the early SEC stick, and Texas's schedule's pretty. I mean, outside they get Georgia at home. They don't get they don't get Bama. They don't get. I mean, they've got it a pretty.
They do go to Michigan early in the year though, so they got out of that.
Whoa!
You look at. I'm just saying. I mean, it's
don't have some. You're talking to a group of non-Michigan believers here, Tyler.
Oh, you don't have to. You ain't got to sell me. I'm with you. I'm on board. But I'm just saying, like, would you rather play? Is it harder to play at Michigan or at Kentucky? You know what I'm saying? Like,
next year, I don't know.
That's true.
All right.
I mean,
you brought up Kentucky, Tyler. They got a nasty defense.
It's in my head.
They got a nasty defense.
They got it. They got it in my head. I like it.
And they got a transfer from Georgia.
Brock Vandergriff. Gonna be good. He's a good player.
No, Jalen Dumas.
Oh, good
linebacker.
Yeah. Like, they'll be.
Yeah.
Look, Kentucky's gonna be good.
Yeah.
So I'm saying they have a potential to crack somebody late in the season.
They will.
Not to bring them up, but
they got
make somebody limp.
Yeah, they got a middle of the season that's a little rough, but like they can get through. If they can, I looked at it the other day. If they get through, they host Auburn. If they find a way to leave that game, I think it was like 4-2, I think, or whatever it was at that point in time in the season. That would be a big hurdle for them closing out the year. But anyway, long story short, is you got this imbalance in the SEC, and I think you're going to have some team. Like, I think a 10-2 SEC team gets in, and so Alabama's obviously in that category. But you look at the teams that fit that category. There's like 6 or 7 teams that fit that category. All right, well, here's the problem: they play each other, right? Somebody's got to lose. Somebody's got to lose, and so I think there's a lot of teams that are. It's a real fine line on who can. It's going to be something really tight that gets teams in the playoffs.
I agree. Well, Tyler, you were talking about Larry Blakeney working with Tuberville. We want to get your take on working with the GOAT. What was it like having that phone call out of the blue from the GOAT, Nick Saban, wanting him to have you on his staff, and just talk about the impact he had on your life, coaching, and then just kind of go into, some of the lighter side of the things of Coach Saban that people might not know about. The GOAT, Coach Saban.
Yeah. So I got it was the Tuesday before signing day in 2013. So that'd been 2013. It was a Tuesday before signing day, and we were in a staff meeting at Ole Miss, and I sat right across. We had a big circular table, and I sat right across from Coach Freeze. And during this meeting, you got your iPhone or whatever, right? And during this meeting, I was getting phone calls from Tuscaloosa. And, I'm thinking like, I look down, I see it says Tuscaloosa, and it's a 205 number. And I think it's a telemarketer or something. I get a voicemail. Well, we finished up the staff meeting, and Hugh said, "Hey, why don't you stay in here and let's go over the board one more time." I was like, okay. So I remember like compliance came in, was talking to Coach, and then like his secretary came in, was getting him to sign something. And I kind of walked my way around the table, and I sat down next to him. And while I'm sitting next to him, and he's talking to him, I'm listening to my voicemail, and it was Lance Thompson. And he was like, he's like, "Hey, Tyler, it's Lance Thompson." And when I was at St. Paul's, Lance recruited St. Paul, so that's how I knew Lance. He said, "Hey, give me a call when you get a chance." And I was listening to it like this, and he goes, "Who was that?" And I was like, "Dude, I got like 4 or 5 calls from Tuscaloosa during that staff meeting," and I left a voicemail. It says it was. I finally left a voicemail and said it was Lance Thompson to call him back. Well, we were recruiting Tony Connor specifically against Alabama, like right before signing day. It was us in Alabama. And he was like, "Hey, call him back. They're wanting some info on Tony." So I'm sitting right next to Hugh, like literally he's on my right shoulder. And I put it on voicemail. And I mean, on loudspeaker. But he was like, he answered, he's like, "Tyler, what's up?" I said, "Lance, what's going on, man? Sorry, missed your call. We're in a staff meeting." He goes, "Hey, are you by yourself?" And I was like, "Yeah." You stand next to me. And he goes, "Hey, Coach wants to talk to you." I'm like, "Huh?" Like, he's like, so, he gets on and he's real dry, like Tyler. He calls everybody by the first name. He's like, "Tyler, Nick Saban." Like, "No shit, Coach. I know who, like, yeah." He's like, "Hey, I have a job over here in working recruiting. Is that something you would be interested in?" And I'm sitting there, and like inside, I'm from, and then mind you, my boss is sitting right next to me, and I just look over at Hugh. I look over at Hugh like that, and Hugh goes, "Ask for a lot of money." And I went, "Yes, sir," because I think Hugh thought it was a joke. And so he was like, "All right, I'll call you after signing day." Cool. Well, dude, like some time went by, and and then finally, like 2 or 3 weeks later, Lance calls me back. He's like, "Dude, you're not answering your phone or returning the phone call." I was like, "Dude, you hadn't called me." And he was calling my mobile number. He was calling the wrong number that I had turned off. And I didn't have the phone anymore. And so he's like, "Oh, my bad," or whatever. And so he says, "Hey, look, Coach is going to call you." Okay, cool. Well, Coach didn't call. And so we had spring break coming up. And I'm getting my hair cut because my kids, our spring break didn't match up with our local school spring break. And I'm getting my hair cut, and Hugh is blowing my phone up. Hugh is, heating me up. I'm talking about, my dude's got like a real razor on my neck. I'm like, I'm not answering the phone. And I finally called him back. Hugh was pissed. He goes, "Nick called and asked if he could speak to you." And he goes, "We're on spring break. I want this over with. I want you to make a decision and let it be over with." And I was like, "Okay." And so I was like, he goes, "Have you talked to him?" I was like, "No, Coach, I hadn't talked to him." And I can't make this up. I get home and I tell my wife, "This is the weirdest deal." He said, "Coach Saban called and asked permission to speak to me, but I haven't heard from him." I can't make this up. This is probably one of the coolest James Bond. I have never told the story, by the way, Petty. You got your first time I've ever told the story.
Hell yeah.
One of the coolest things I've ever experienced. Like, I'm sitting there, I haven't got a phone call or nothing. And all of a sudden, you know how you get email notification?
Yeah.
I get a ding on my email. I look, it was a reservation for the capstone for that night for me.
Ooh.
No one has called me. No one has said, "Hey, come over," whatever. And so I'm asking him, we're on spring break. I asked him, like, what the hell did I do? I got a reservation, and it was from Miss Linda Leone, who is Coach Saban's secretary, right? So I'm like, what? I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do? No one has called me, not one person. But now I got a reservation in my name from the Alabama Coach Saban secretary for the capstone at the hotel. I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do? And she goes, well, hell, you're on vacation. You might as well just go check it out. So I was like, okay. I packed a suit just in case. Hell, I didn't know what's happening. I drive my ass to Tuscaloosa. I check in the hotel at 9:00. I did not make it from the front desk to the elevator. My phone rang and said, hey, I see you got in all right. See you over here in the morning at 8:00.
Wow.
That's some mafia.
Hey,
He had eyes
Tyler,
everywhere.
did he say that in his kingpin voice?
No.
What was the voice?
Tyler. We'll see you made it okay. I'll see you at 8:00. And then, interviewed the next day. I knew I probably had the job because I was coaching at Ole Miss, and he said he needed to talk to his money lady. He did not. He says, how much? He goes, what will it take? And I told him. We had a conversation about that. And he goes, well, hey, you want to come and watch practice today? And I figured he wasn't going to hire me and let me watch practice since I was at Ole Miss. So I figured if he let me watch practice, he was going to hire me. So I kind of knew I had the job at that point.
And then you just proceeded to break every Ole Miss fan's heart with binoculars and Bo Scarborough and every damn thing else, Tyler.
Well, we can, here's the thing is I can really break hearts, but I'm taking bullets on those. Hey, I will tell you like this. I will put this. I'll tell you something else, Patty. Since we're on Alabama show, I try.
Yeah, we're on an Alabama, and look, you're good with me. I'm an Ole Miss fan. I give a shit.
Hey, I'm just letting everybody know I protected Ole Miss in that deal. Now I could have said some things in public that would have been bad.
You took a lot of bullets.
I took the bullet.
So for context, when Tyler got to Alabama and there was a picture that surfaced of Tyler with binoculars during the Ole Miss game, and Ole Miss people lost their ever-loving shit. He knows all our secrets and all our signs, and he's stealing them. And man, you took a lot of heat for that, Tyler.
Yeah, I did. Hey, has it ever crossed your mind? Do you ever know who made up those signals?
Did you made them up?
You know who sent them in the play? Sent them into the game?
Are you shitting me?
So let me ask you a question. Is it stealing signals or is it just taking back what's mine?
I feel like it's dumbasses for having the same signals. That's on them.
Yeah, why wouldn't you change them?
All kidding aside, you can't, and this is the truth, and people don't want to hear this. It was not possible to steal, when you're going that fast, you can't steal signals and know.
Hurry up. Yeah.
When I got being dead serious, I was actually in an argument with Dean. I can't remember Dean's last name. Dean, starts with A, Annabelle, whatever. Dean was an analyst for us. And Dean, I was in an argument with Dean because they changed personnel. Here's what happened. And the guy, I was on TV doing it. I was looking binoculars. I did personnel. I helped with because I'm an offensive guy. I can see personnel. And so I helped with defensive personnel. And so Dean, they went from 11 personnel to 10 red. Okay. And so I've actually called plays in the system. I understand it. Okay. So when you put a big receiver at 3 and you put him on the ball, it's 100% tendency on pass. And Dean's yelling to Kirby over the headset, they're going to run it. It's like 4th and 4 or something. And I'm arguing with Dean. I said, no, they're going to pass it. They're going to pass it. They're going to pass it. Because I didn't steal a signal because they put number 3 on the ball in 10 red personnel, which is 10 personnel, but a big wide receiver at 3. It stands for 10 red zone.
That's good stuff, man. Again, I love the X's and O's shit. I like getting funny on here, and we like cracking up and joking, but that's really I love it.
But I did. There's a lot. You mentioned another name over there. I did a lot of protecting too. Now I didn't. No,
trust me. I know the name you're talking about, Bo, and I know.
Yeah.
Look, I
you
know.
Probably heard some stories. I did a lot of protecting on that one. I took some bullets.
You did. And I told him he did the right thing. Look, man, I would have loved as an Ole Miss fan.
There was a 0.0% chance Bo Scarborough was going to Ole Miss.
That was so dumb to even think. You want to know something crazy? Crazy irony. And I was keeping up with recruiting at the time. I was eating at T-Town Cafe. Nobody was in it. 2:00 on a random afternoon. And damn Hugh walked in. And I knew exactly who he was there to see. And I almost I'm obviously a boisterous jackass. I almost walked up to him and said, Hugh, nice to meet you. Appreciate what you're doing for Ole Miss. You're wasting your time. You're not getting a kid out of Tuscaloosa if Alabama really wants him. I don't give a shit. Formby is a great example. Ole Miss worked their asses off to get Wilkin Formby this last year, and when Alabama threw their hat in the ring, it was ball game.
Well, and it works both ways, right? It's like when you're, it works both ways. I mean, it's every state.
Dude, y'all had to fight for Tony Connor. Look, Saban was about to take Tony Connor, unless I'm an idiot. Was it close or no?
No.
We got our Batesville people taking care of that.
Hey, I can't tell you why it wasn't close, but it wasn't close.
There's people in Batesville. I get it. Dude, we're pay for play now. We can talk about all this stuff.
I can't. I'm gonna
stop. Bo, and I know we can't talk about it, and I'll kill people on here. But Bo told a story about Barney that may have been one of the funniest, like Blue Chips. Blue Chips funny.
I love. We're not. I don't know anything.
Okay, you brought up Galston Fowler earlier as being one of the smarter players you ever had. We had him on one of our Saturday morning shows, which is kind of an all SEC show. I had a few Bloody Marys, and man, for the longest time, everybody viewed Saban as this coach robot, fire breathing dragon, and that he had no personality, and he was just this machine. But man, later in the career, you heard one player finally drop the D's line, and we had Joustin on, and I asked him, I said, Joustin, rumors out there that Coach Saban actually has a damn sense of humor. He actually likes to drop D's. Like he obviously his sense of humor is dated, but he still has one. Was there a moment where I know you said going in, you got to kind of have an intimidation of Nick, like, oh my, because I've been around him on the gut. He's the most intimidating person I've ever been around in my life, and I've gotten to be around some folks. When was that moment where you were like, holy shit, he's funny as hell? Was there
when he's funny, like
where you caught him like, holy shit, he's got sense of humor?
I don't know if it was when how long it took me to get his humor. Coach is a great dude, man. Like, I think it was the first time I think I got, we did the Knicks kids things every summer, right? And when you learn that how good of a dude he is, and he would get around, when he gets around Miss Terry, he was immediately softened up. You know what I mean? Like it was Coach is a really, really good dude. Like that was probably like I almost had him talking to get him Twitter one time, but Coach is really good. Like he likes to joke around and cut up, but it's got to be the right time. You can't just go in there bullshit all the time. But Coach has got he's a funny dude, and like he's not. I always wish, like, I'm glad that now he's doing media. The fans can see that side of him, like what you see on SEC Network and all. That was every day. The D's nuts jokes, all that stuff. That was every day at practice. He was a really big players coach. Players loved him. He loved the players.
Maybe, man, and I want you to stick a needle and put a pin in that, because I don't think people realize what a player's that they don't talk about that much.
Probably the biggest one I've ever been around.
Wow.
But he's just he's a good dude. He's got a good heart. You know what I mean? Like he is a good person. And he cares about other people. He was very, like, the Knicks kids thing. I don't think that's publicized enough. And it was always about him yelling or him looking angry and all that stuff. And he's not that guy all the time. Now, I would tell you, and it's a really simple formula. And I don't know, some coaches had a tough time with it. I did not. It was very easy for me. I think I said this on another show. When I went on the interview, he said, look, I'm not hiring you to do your shit. I'm hiring you to do my shit. And so when you go and you work there, as long as you do what he asked you to do, it's fine. It's more than fine. And I appreciated that we didn't have any wasted time. I appreciated that, because it sucks to work somewhere and you meet to meet. That's the worst. But everything was, you always were working, and the days went by fast. And he took, we worked hard, but he also took care of us too. Now, there's a lot of people that don't, like, here's a good, like, my man Joe Panunzio had to deal with this one, but there was a time where the food, like, we were, we would eat in the cafeteria after practice every day, and he would eat dinner, and he finally had enough, and the food wasn't good. They had gotten a little tired, and they, just whatever, and he lost his mind. He goes, I worked these fuckers to death. He goes, they're going to eat right. I'm going to take care of them. And I was like, and so by God, we had like Chuck's catered every night for the next 30 days. We were eating right for about 30 days. But he takes care of his coaches. He bought us suits, coaches, out of his own pocket, bought us suits. We had like bonuses and stuff throughout the year. He financially took care of us. And I really, what he, I meant to answer this earlier, what he's meant to me. I learned so much from him on how to do things, learned a ton about decision-making skills from him, but just the overall method of how he went through everything. He means the world to me, and I'm happy that he's happy in retirement, but it's more than him being the greatest coach of all time. It's just, I think he's just the way he's old school, and I kind of that's how I grew up, and we kind of just meshed as far as my learning, what I needed to learn, he delivered. He taught it that way.
I love that. Great story. Great story right there. So guys, we're gonna go around the table, question and answers with the one and only Tyler Siskey. Tyler, who wants to start? Y'all want me to go first, or I'll go first? Tyler, who was the toughest player that you had to game plan against while you were at Alabama?
The toughest player?
Yes.
Probably. God, that's a good question. Toughest player we had a game plan against? Probably Mike Evans. Check that, Mike Evans.
Oh yeah, definitely good answer.
Lou, I'm gonna catch shit about that. Thanks, Tyler.
Yeah, Mike Evans. We couldn't cover his ass in a phone booth, man. We just kept rolling corners out there. It had no chance. He completely. We would have
watch the film, Petty.
Dude, Johnny Manziel was a magician.
We would have beat them. Well, Johnny Manziel was slow though. We had his ass hemmed up.
Dude, look. I remember with Ole Miss when we had him 3rd and 13 on the goal line, and he runs around like a freaking magic and throws it.
Who did he throw it to?
You're hurt. Okay, I
quit.
Thank you.
Who did he throw it to?
You.
Evans.
Thank you.
Okay, like
prove my point.
We had his ass hemmed up. He'd make him, like Johnny would make mistakes as long as you were disciplined in the back end. Okay. But like there was no discipline with Mike Evans. I mean, we rolled out every damn corner. We're Alabama, man. We got some pretty good corners. We rolled them all out there. And I mean, if it wasn't for Mike Evans, we'd have beat him by 35 points.
Really?
We beat him by 14, but it'd been 35. Like he single-handedly extended drives like the entire game, and had like a 90-yard touchdown or something in that game too, right?
Crazy.
Who did we had? Were we just switching up who we had on him that day?
Everybody that was wearing a Crimson Tide uniform that played corner lined up against him at some point in time. He ended one dude's career. I don't think the guy ever played again. Whoever started that game at corner, I do not think started a single game.
Blue, John Blue, wasn't it?
Oh, Fulton.
Blue?
Who? It may have been Blue. Who was the other one you said?
No, John Fulton.
John Fulton.
Fulton. Yeah. Just
broke him.
Oh, it was Fulton.
Yeah, it was Fulton. I remember. Yeah,
I remember.
And it wasn't his fault, man. I mean, he was uncoverable, and he would either just run by you, out jump you, big boy you, whatever. It was probably what playing against Randy Moss felt like in the late '90s, I imagine.
Right.
Saw that
because we didn't have a Patrick Surtain II yet.
Yeah, we needed some big. We didn't have, like, we had Marlon, but he wasn't ready yet. We had some guys coming, but we had Cyrus, we had Fulton, we had Blue. I'm trying to think who else we had out there. I think we literally rolled out every single human being. I think we even lined up a safety on his ass one time.
Yeah, I remember that.
And everybody in the whole building knew where the ball was going. It didn't matter.
Dan?
See, I would have took him out. I would have taken him out. They just gonna roll me out there, and I would have just.
All right,
took that 15, Tyler.
I want to talk to you. Coach Saban. He didn't tend to he did something, but not to blitz as much. Will we see more blitz packages out of Kane Womack's defense?
He's got them for sure. I don't think any defensive coordinator wants to blitz. If you can, you're going to see if you can get there with the downs first. Right. I mean, if you can get there with the downs, that's teams that don't blitz, quote unquote blitz, are teams that can get there with their downs. Right. Now, if you can't get there with your downs, you got to do something to create pressure on the quarterback. So I mean, yes, he will be aggressive and go with simulated pressures and a lot of exotic stuff, but Alabama hasn't had a problem. They had one year a couple of years ago where it felt like they had a bunch of 4 eyes. They didn't have a lot of go-getters. Right. But for the most part, Alabama's been able to get there with some kind of pressure or create pressure on the quarterback. And then when Dallas has been there, and he's gone obviously. But when you got a jack that can go get the quarterback like that, you don't have to pressure.
Right.
If
you got Dallas and Will and Tim Williams.
Right. Tim Williams, forget about it. Right.
Right.
So, but that's the whole thing is right. It's simulated pressure. The whole term, you had zone blitz at first, right? So zone blitz, you're bringing 5, but you're playing zone coverage behind it with 6 instead of 7. All right. Well, simulated pressure is you're bringing 4. So you're bringing the same amount of downs. You're one of them is a blitzer. Okay. And you may drop the jack or whatever you're doing with that, match them up. But if you can get there with 4, you're going to try to get there with 4.
Okay.
Lushawn, great question, Dan.
You're on mute.
You're mute,
buddy.
Mute.
I watched a lot of your shows. I did some homework on you, so I got a question. What would be one thing that you took from Tuscaloosa onto every one of your coaching stops? That's something that the public doesn't know. Something that happened behind the scenes that stuck with you that you took to every one of your stops on your coaching journey.
Yeah, I kind of briefly mentioned a little bit of it right there. I didn't go into it, but it's not even just with my stops. It's in my life, right? It's really decision making. Coach said something one day that just hit home with me. He's like, when people hear the word consequence, they immediately think of that it's a negative. Well, every decision you make has a consequence, but not all consequences not necessarily negative. Some consequences are negative, but some consequences are positive because the consequence is a result of a decision. And so when you go to make a decision, he's like, you can't just say, hey, I'm going to make this decision because it fixes this problem. You got to say, all right, if I go here, that's going to cause this. Okay. Then I'm going to have to do this. Then I'm going to have to do this. And so when you're making big decisions, whether it be in life, if you're going to buy a house, if you're going to get married, if you're whatever you're doing, if you're recruiting a kid or whatever, you got to think down the road. Okay, if I offer this kid, this is going to happen. And really, it helped me be a better decision maker in life and football about just thinking through things that way. And then don't be worried, and everybody hears the process, right? And the process is part of it to where don't be so result oriented, be process oriented, because being process oriented will get the results that you want. So those are probably, but the decision making for sure is one thing that has really stuck with me throughout ever since I left there, because I didn't think like that before I got there, and now that's all I think about.
Can I ask you one more real quick?
Yeah, man,
I
got nothing to do but watch TV, man. So I'm good.
Yeah, if y'all got good ones, ask them.
The opposite side. Who did you go up against in practice at Alabama when you were just like, man, this dude's just a nightmare? That just gave you fits. Who was someone on the opposite side of the football that just made your life difficult?
I mean, without question, probably the most talented defensive player that I've ever seen in my life is Tim Williams. We talked about him earlier. Like, I don't know.
Besides him.
I know, but I do have to say this. Tim Williams, the entire time I was at Alabama, never lost a one-on-one rep.
Wow.
Ever. Whoa. Not one.
Wow.
It wasn't like he was going against scrubs either.
No,
he wasn't. He was going
against all of them. I never saw the kid lose a one-on-one ever.
Damn.
Really good players on Minka, obviously, but let me think. I'm a big Minka fan. I'll tell you one. I got one for you that would wreck have it every day. Brought it every day. Was a practice guy. Game guy was Jaron Reed.
Oh yeah.
He was a beast. Jonathan Allen was good, right? But Jonathan Allen was a late bloomer. Like, he became dominant later and dominant NFL. Jaron Reed, man, was a wrecker every single day. But I love like Jonathan Allen, that mindset. We had a good D-line crew when I was there. It made we had a young Ashawn Robinson. We had some
good Lord.
Pretty good players.
That class was
a young Deron Payne. He's pretty good. We had some dudes, but Jaron Reed,
Dalvin Tomlinson.
Dalvin. Dalvinson was let's say he's a much better pro, right? He was just, I would have never guessed how good of a pro he was going to be based on. I mean, I thought he was really good, but he wasn't as dominant in college as he is in the NFL. He's developed too. But Jaron Reed was probably just an ass kicker every single snap of practice.
Chris?
All right, I got one for you, Tyler.
What you got, babe?
C.J. Mosley or Reuben Foster?
Oh man, come on! It's like picking against two of my kids.
Yes.
Well, just give me a compare and contrast.
Yeah, I can do that. I think CJ is a more natural. Like CJ was instinctive. CJ was, I mean, so instinctive, so smart. But then he was so instinctive and smart, probably than he was a better football player. Like he always made the right read. He sniffed everything out. He could run and all that stuff. Where Reuben was just like a dog, man. He would, and this is what's great about Reuben is I know he's had his issues off the field, but Reuben was a really cool guy off the field. I really like Reuben. He was one of the most fun recruits we ever dealt with. But he would knock your, like the violence that Reuben played the game with is something I'm old school like that. Like I like knocking people out. Like Reuben tried to knock you out in endo. You know what I mean? Like he was a violent human being by nature on the football field. I mean, he was like see ball, hit ball, but he was out of control a lot of times too, especially early in his career. You know, he got better towards the end where he started settling down a little bit. But you know, Rashaan Evans and CJ were probably closer than Reuben and CJ. But I would probably, if you just tell me to pick a linebacker, I'm picking CJ because he was just so instinctive. Besides being a damn good football player, but he was always right. Very, very intelligent football player.
Yeah,
going to Alabama over Auburn was the best move Reuben ever made. I remember they put up one of his high school games on ESPN, and he was playing against the quarterback.
He got a tattoo.
And he had the Auburn tattoo. And
they
blitzed him every play, and he ran out of most of the plays. And I remember and it was that quarterback that was the dual threat that ended up at Auburn and didn't Jefferson maybe, but
Jeremy Johnson.
And I remember saying after that night, it's like, this kid's got all the talent, but he doesn't have any discipline. If he goes to Auburn, we'll never hear from him again. He better go to Alabama where they actually can coach him.
Well, he was tough to get on. It was tough for him to get on the field early in his career as far as playing linebacker. Now you can put him on special teams, like he knocked Leonard Fournette's ass out on one of the kickoffs.
That was crazy.
I mean, he was if Reuben Foster was like a targeting call waiting to happen. Like he was violent, man, and it didn't matter how many stinger. Like you're trying to tell the guy, he wore every cowboy collar note that's ever been created. You try to tell the guy you're going to break your neck or whatever, and it didn't even click with him. He just kept. No matter how many people talked to him about the way he tackled, he would hit your ass and make you like it.
Like I remember when CJ first got to Baltimore with the Ravens. My childhood best friend was Darryl Smith, who had played 9 seasons with the Jaguars, and he was brought in to replace Ray Lewis. A lot of they said that it was said afterwards that it was only one guy. Even Ozzie Newsome said there was only one guy that they felt that could replace Ray Lewis, and that was Darryl Smith. And so Darryl was brought in to mentor CJ. And when CJ first got there, I asked him about him. He was like, "Man," he said, "CJ is unreal, man." He was just telling me how good CJ was, and he was ragging on him as a rookie. And you know, to hear that from I think he was going on his 10th year then, to hear that from a 10-year NFL veteran to talk about how great CJ Mosley was, you know, as a rookie, I said this guy right here is probably the most. Now I wouldn't say underrated because you hear people talk about Alabama linebackers under Saban, but most people go to Rolando or who was the best, blah blah blah. But I personally, like I tell my brother all the time, I personally thought it was CJ Mosley just because of his versatility.
Yeah, CJ was really good. Probably the person that doesn't, because he didn't have a great NFL career, but probably the one that doesn't get the credit he deserves is Reggie Ragland. He'd knock your ass out. Reggie Ragland was a really good player when we were there. You know, the hard part, and I can tell this because it doesn't really matter, but I don't think a lot of fans understand this. That time, you know, Londo McClain is like the last of the Mohicans. Okay, the game changed, and so it's very hard to recruit 3-4 inside backers like coach wanted them. Okay. Because if they were big enough to play the position in high school, they were playing rush defensive end or something, and they didn't have the instincts to play the position. So that was CJ kind of bridged that gap. CJ was probably undersized. CJ didn't weigh but like 205 pounds coming out of high school. And, he probably bridged that gap of, like Reggie Ragland, he's a 3-4 backer. They were just,
those guys.
Yeah. Like you had to have big bodied guys. Like Rolando was probably like the prototype body type of that position, right? And we had Trey Dupriest. Like you had to have big mics and big wheels, really wheels, not mics, but you had to in a 3-4, and they were hard to find. And CJ kind of bridged that gap, and he was kind of, and then to Ruben, like we were worried that Ruben wasn't going to be big enough. And so it's just the way it likes to play. Now the game has changed and go more spread, and so now you've had a lot of smaller guys in there since. But man, you used to have to be like you were looking for somebody 6'3", 6'4", 250 pounds. I mean, that's a big ass man that you got to have running. I mean, the game changed. When you went from that, regular personnel to everybody started spreading it out. That's when you started. That's why Alabama struggled a little bit early with some spread offenses because of the speed and agility and lateral change of direction into 2 inside backer spots.
Great stuff right there, Patty.
Yeah. Does Justin want to go for me? Is he gonna go? You gonna go after me, Justin? I know our producer wants to ask one as well, but yeah. Look, man, I'm obviously the weirdest bastard on this set. I'm an Alabama grad, an Ole Miss fan. I grew up in Mississippi, moved to Tuscaloosa in high school. I'm just a weird damn breed. So
nobody's perfect.
That's right. But man, it as an Ole Miss fan, growing up in Mississippi, you always hoped that they could be Alabama, and I never understood why they couldn't. Then you move to Alabama, and you see how they operated in such a different way. How different was it walking in a kid's living room wearing Ole Miss, and then when you put on that crimson, the reception you got? How night and day really was it when you took that?
Well, I think when we got to Ole Miss, when I came to Ole Miss for Freeze, I think they hadn't won it. Correct me if I'm wrong here. It's been like 3 years since they won the SEC game.
Yeah,
out here, and so you had to get the brand back, right? And I think it's all about brand recognition. And Alabama, college football goes in ebbs and flows, right? And Alabama just happens to be a hot, one of the hottest brands, if not the hottest brand in college football for the last 10, 15 years. And so anytime you're wearing that logo, you're going to leave tied or in the lead, don't matter who it is. You couldn't have a conversation with a kid. You're going to leave the conversation in the lead or tied when you roll out. And as Ole Miss has gotten, now as they have success, their brand's getting better. So it's all about brand recognition. Georgia's the same way, right? I mean, Mark Richt, less than 10 years ago, Mark Richt is not signing any players out of the state of Georgia. All those players are leaving. Now Kirby's there and they're winning games. Now what's happening? They're recruiting, right? So I think it's all about brand recognition. In my time when I left Ole Miss after going 6-6, the first year to coming to Alabama, huge difference at that time. But I do think Ole Miss got there though. After we did something with that 13 class, I think from a brand recognition, it wasn't Alabama, but it wasn't far behind. It wasn't as far behind as probably people think.
Oh no, it was different than any time in my life when you were getting the Kim Deechees and Treadwell and Tunsil, and then Connor was underrated in that class. He was, man, just as good as any of those guys, I thought.
The hard part, answer your question a little bit though. The hard part is to build brand recognition, and this is probably, if I say why has Ole Miss not got there? In my opinion, to build brand recognition, you got to perform with consistency. Mm-hmm. Okay. Ole Miss has done this as a program in the last 10 years. Okay. And I've been a part of some of the ups, I've been a part of some of the downs. Okay. So, but Ole Miss has done this. Alabama's just stayed at the top the whole time. So right. I think that's part of brand recognition and recruiting is you got to be consistently there. And I think a couple of years of that, if Ole Miss goes to New Year's Six game, then turn around to go to the playoffs this year, it's a lot easier to get in living rooms. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's all about brand recognition because kids don't remember. Have you ever had the conversation when you ask a high school kid, like if they watched one of your favorite movies growing up and they don't know what the hell you're talking about? Like you'll say, hey, wait, man, what's your favorite movie, man? I'm a big fan of Friday, man. Chris Tucker, that's my guy. And they go, who the fuck is Chris Tucker? Like that's how high school kids are. They only remember what happened yesterday. So you don't have to do it for long.
All right, I got one last quick one. I'm going to turn it to Justin. And I lied to you. I said I wasn't going to ask, hey, just tell me a good story. But I am an Ole Miss guy and a Bama guy. I love Nick Saban. You were there with Kiffin and Saban. you got to that had I know Saban has these relationships with all the coaches. I know you mentioned Kirby was the golden child, but I think it's not a secret that the oddest relationship he probably ever had with any of his assistants had to be Kiffin. What was the one time you were sitting there, and you've got a sense of humor, you're sitting there like, is this like the Truman Show? Am I in a story right now? Is this a show or is this real? Did any of that ever, you got a good one with Kiffin?
Yeah, every day.
How was Kiffin with Saban? He's such a different dude.
All right, so you remember how I said that if you do it his way, everything's fine, but if you do it your way, you get your ass ripped. Like Lane did it his way just to piss Coach off. Like Lane intentionally would piss Coach off.
I love that about him.
And I'm like, why? We were like, why? like we're having a great day today, Lane. Why?
What would he just do little things or would he just do crazy?
Just everything. It was all the time. Like he knows how practice is going to go, and he'll go like run a trick play, and like everything's got to be on the script with Coach. And then he'll go run a trick play and shit in the middle of team, and if it scores, like he just did shit like that all the time with Coach. Like it was every day about everything. I mean, it wasn't. It was like if the meeting started at 7:30. Lane would not be late, but it's going to be 7. Like everybody's sitting in the chair at 7:25, and Lane's going to come in at 7:29, 59. You know what I mean? Like it was just always something. You know what I mean? Like, but as a coach there, you're just like, why, man? Like,
so did y'all want to choke him half the time?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I know you, Tyler. I know you've got a kind of. I told him before. I was like, it's kind of a secret. I think Tyler wanted to more kill Kiffin than follow.
Yeah, he made it rough. He made it. Well, it's nothing personal. He just made I had to deal with the aftermath. That's why I was pissed. I wasn't pissed. I mean, that's if Coach had just ripped his ass all the time, it'd be fine. But we always would catch Lane shrapnel. You know what I mean? Like Lane would get everybody hit with shrapnel. And that's not. I do a good enough job getting my ass ripped by Coach. I don't need somebody else to get my ass ripped by Coach. You know what I mean? Like if I get my ass ripped, I'm gonna get it ripped. If it's on me, I'm good with it. I can live with it. Yeah. And I just say, like, okay, here's a great example. Coach is ripping my ass. Okay, yes sir. And like Coach was big on accountability, right? That was like his thing. Like he just wanted somebody to be held accountable. Like if you could screw up the worst play in the national championship game, but if you said, Coach, that's on me, that's my fault. Dude, he was good. Like, Coach would not mess with you. Like, Coach wouldn't just rip you for nothing if you took accountability for stuff. That's all he wanted. And so there was a lot of times it wasn't my fault. I'd be like, Coach, that's on me. That's my bad. And, dude, you know what? He didn't say another word ever. But Lane was like, when you tell my 8-year-old just walked in here a minute ago. All right, he wants to play Xbox. And I say, no. He goes, why? And you say, because I said so. But I got to play it earlier. Because I said you're not playing Xbox right now. But I didn't play earlier today. I said you're not playing Xbox right now. But little Johnny's playing on right now. I said you're not playing Xbox right now. And it was every day. Every day.
Well, I'd heard like in those pickup basketball games, he would have, Kirby on his team. I heard Lane wouldn't go to him because and I heard like the other team coaches would, it was like playing Saban. You would like playing the king. You weren't going to take him out. You were going to play off.
I guarded Coach.
I heard Kiffin wouldn't do it because he wouldn't have laid off.
I've never saw Kiffin do it. I never saw him play golf. I never saw him do any. I know he played quarterback at Fresno. I saw him throw a ball in practice. That's the only thing I've ever seen him do athletic. He didn't play noontime basketball. So I would have to go. I had to guard Coach because I'm the only. Me and him were like I felt good guarding Coach because it made me feel tall when I was guarding Coach.
Did you guard him hard?
I did. Yeah, I didn't like Coach wasn't like Coach was going to stay at the top of the key and dish the rock. And so I wouldn't let him pass it like over my head or try to whiz one by my ear. I'll have hands. He wants to go around the perimeter and I'd let him get a shot off from time to time, but I wasn't taking it easy on him either. But Coach would wear that spot. Like Coach, there was no 3-point line when Coach played. He would never shoot 3-pointers. Like Coach would step just inside the 3-point line. He had light it up from like right behind the free throw line. Just light it up. He could shoot it now.
Steph Curry.
West Virginia jump shot.
Yeah, it looked like I was watching the movie Hoosiers, man. Coach was like Jimmy Chitwood.
Was Kirby really that good? I can't see Kirby being good at basketball.
Kirby was athletic. Kirby had a high motor. Probably the best. Like, so I was on. We always joke. Coach was on the Harlem Globetrotters, and I was on the Generals. I was always on the B team. Like, he had a rule that you either had to play in the NFL or be a draft pick to be on his team. Like, he stacked his team. And so it was always me, Glenn Schumann, and what was our Corey? I think it was Corey, one of our strength coaches. Now, he was a workhorse down low, but like, he was a workhorse down low. But, you know, then Coach had Chris Samuels on his team. So I was like, man, this is not
Chris Samuels.
Oh, yeah.
That's not fair.
Yeah. I mean, Chris has got everybody about 1 foot and 200 pounds. It's like, he was just, you know, what ain't fair. And so they could just get like Glenn can play. Glenn Schumann can shoot. He could play. And so I think we won one time the entire time I was there. And Glenn hit like 4 3. Like it was make it take it. And Glenn hit like 3 or 4 threes in a row and we won. And that was it. After that, we got Coach was real picky. Like, he started taking our players like off our team, like Scotty, our guy, our post player. He started taking him off our team. And like, Coach don't like to lose now.
Coach don't like to lose anything, does he?
He's a recruiter.
Hey, Coach, this I've never told this story. I'll probably get in trouble with this Alabama podcast. Nobody cares. When we went to Kiva Dunes, we would go to Kiva Dunes and play in the spring, and for 2 days. And we had like this tournament. It was like a 2-day scramble kind of deal, right? And so I don't know who Coach was paired up with the first day, but they were not very good. All right. And they were like way down the leaderboard after the first day. Coach sent, I don't know who's playing, somebody's playing, and went and flew and went and picked up Jerry Pate to fly him back to Kiva Dunes to play on his team the next day so he could win the damn tournament.
It was Pate's course.
Yeah, he designed.
He got a course maker.
Yes, he designed the course and is a former PGA Tour player.
Gangster. That's mafia type stuff.
Yeah,
that's boss.
Coach don't like to lose.
That's awesome.
So
Justin, I know you've been dying to.
I've been waiting patiently.
Tribal chief.
Man, he keeps telling good stories. We ain't gonna stop him.
Well, I'm not gonna stop him either. The ratings are up, but I tried to ask this on your live the other day, and I didn't translate it very well. But during your time at Alabama, which former player, I guess, was your favorite underdog?
All right, I remember this question. I still don't understand it when you just you said it out loud. What do you mean by my favorite?
Like I guess underdog story. A guy that kind of came under the radar, worked his ass off, and then ended up, by the time it was all said and done, left his mark there. Which guy was that guy for you?
Man, that's a good question, because there wasn't many recruits and people there that were underdogs.
Yeah, they're all blue chips.
Yeah,
I can answer that.
That's a hard question.
I
do understand what you're asking. Guys, I will say that, like, I'll tell you something unique that probably a lot of people don't know. Amari Cooper is probably not in the top 25 most talented wide receivers I've ever been around.
Wow.
Whoa. That's
hang on. Let me finish. He's the best wide receiver I've ever seen in my life.
I agree that he's number one on my list.
He is my unicorn. I have never seen a human being work like Amari Cooper. If every player on this planet worked, there'd be a lot more great NFL players and great players, period, if they put in the work and was coachable. I mean, like, you could tell Amari. I remember this. I don't remember who we were playing. I remember telling Amari, like, I'm a receivers guy, and I was telling him something in like practice, like in August, about, you know, using chicken wing or something like that. And I don't remember who we were playing. I don't think it was all the way like in October. We were playing at Tennessee or something. And he did it. And then he came after the game. He goes, you like that chicken wing today? I mean, I told him this shit like 4 months ago. Like, you know, he just, the way, I mean, the guy came, he was one of the first people at the office, including coaches. He did not have a car, by the way. Didn't have a driver's license. He rode the tram, the school tram, stayed in the dorms stayed at Bryant Hall every day, never moved out.
Smart.
Okay. And very quiet, came there, ate breakfast, worked on his own craft, went outside, got on the school tram, went to class, came back, came in, got treatment, went in the film room by himself until practice. Went to practice. You would have to get him off the practice field. He would not leave practice. He would come in and he'd be in the bed at 9:30. Did it rinse and repeat 365 days. Didn't go home. Like, I don't remember the length of time, but he was almost a year or two before he went home. Like during the season, like the guy's a beast, man. He is without question my unicorn. I will never see another one like him. He obviously talented, but I've seen Robert Foster was more talented than he was at Alabama. But there's everybody wants to be the guy. Everybody. I've never met a football player that didn't want to be the guy. I've met a bunch of them that wasn't willing to do what it took to be the guy. And for me, Amari Cooper, I've never seen one or even heard. I mean, I've been around a bunch of them. I've never seen one like him ever in 20 years.
Now, those are like Jerry Rice type story. Those are the stories you heard about Jerry Rice, the greatest to ever do it. So.
You know, like there was a thing, we had those catapults, right? When catapults started and we started measuring, like he was running like in practice, doing the same drills that everybody else was doing. He was running 8 to 9 more miles than anybody else at the same position during a practice. I mean, he's my unicorn, man. I mean, just raw talent wouldn't have never been enough. He had just been a guy. You know what I mean? He had just been a guy. But he is elite because of how he works and how he plays. I mean, he's the best. Y'all thought I was going somewhere else with that, didn't you? I saw how y'all's face. Y'all was shocked.
I was like, wow.
Well, and then
I
when
knew
you
where
said
he was going with
top 25, that was good. That's good stuff, man. That's the shit that we were hoping.
You gotta understand just how good the damn Judy's and Ridley's, just how naturally talented they were. Robert Foster was like, if he would have been different right here, man, he could have. Oh my God.
Because I did the NFL stuff, right? That was my job. I was the NFL liaison. I was there. Do you know how many scouts would go watch routes on air? Because coach would let them out there. You know how many scouts went to watch routes on air and would spend time watching Robert Foster, thinking that they were watching Amari Cooper because they were 8 and 9. And so from a distance, the numbers look similar. Mm-hmm. And so I can't tell you how many scouts would watch Robert Foster for 10 or 15 minutes thinking they were watching Amari Cooper.
Wow.
So, yeah, it happened a lot. Robert was
why he's the route king.
The route king.
Unbelievable, man.
You got that big extension today, too, with the Cleveland Browns.
I just watched Matt Cadell thinking I was watching.
Matt, didn't he watch your game film? Isn't that the Mari? Didn't he form his game off you, Matt?
Yeah, a little bit. Me, Jerry Rice, Randy Moss.
Hey, Tyler, man, Dan and I, we were watching Bama and Missouri. We was there at SEC Championship 2014.
Yeah.
Man, like just watching Amari, man, I've never seen a receiver like get out of breath. Quick. Like they could not cover him, man. Like it was the most beautiful thing I ever seen from a wide receiver, man, in my life.
Amari's got so for me, coaching receivers, he's got one of the biggest skill sets that you look for in wide receiver is what I call one-step change of direction.
Yes.
Okay? And so that's being able, y'all know what I'm talking about. You stick one foot in the ground, whether you run a slant or being able to change directions quickly. A lot of people, it's a big trait for hip stiffness. Like you can tell hip stiffness and a lot of things like that, right? And you got to be careful when you do it. I think I love Calvin, right? Calvin Ridley, but Calvin would be so over exaggerated with it.
Yeah.
Right? He would get what he call outside your framework. Dude, Amari has the most elite one-step change of direction that the good Lord's ever put in a wide receiver. Mm-hmm. I have never seen a human being put their foot in the ground and change directions like he could. Like he could run like you teach like man cuts, zone cuts, speed turns and all that stuff. Amari, everybody else when you're doing like man cuts, Amari could do it with one step, and you got everybody else having to do it with 3 and 4. I mean, it's just not natural. And it doesn't, but here's the thing is everybody's like, oh, well, see, he is talented. No, he worked at it every day. Like the guy worked every single day. And fun fact, when I say he worked at it every single day, the guy did not, when he played his last game at the University of Alabama, Amari Cooper did not have a driver's license.
Wow.
Ben Settis took Amari Cooper in the parking lot of the Mile Moore Center but in between, right before the draft, and was driving him around in circles in that parking lot trying to teach him how to drive.
Wow.
That's crazy, man.
I mean, that's just how he is, man. I mean, he's my unicorn, man. He's
a different breed, man.
Dude, he had those Missouri corners in the spin cycle, man. That was crazy. The way he was breaking on those out routes, like he had broken on an out route, and the DB was still like just turning to run, thinking he was going to run a goal route on him, and the Martin broke it off up underneath him, and the DB was like,
in that game, Lane was kind of showing his offensive brilliance. I mean, he was lining the guy up in the backfield, motioning him out. He was doing all kind of stuff, and I was like, wow.
And Martin was on a different speed. He played at a different speed, man.
I was joking with Blake today. I told Blake, we were talking about everything. I said, you made the smartest decision as a quarterback. He said, what? I said, close your eyes, throw that bitch to 9, and listen for the crowd to roar.
Yeah. Man, speaking of Blake, you were telling a really interesting story about Blake in our kind of pre-talk, man. I hate to get you back in it, but dude, Blake had it in his mind that the game-changing moment in his career, he didn't even know that he was about to get benched during it.
He was. He was about – in the Florida game, that'd been in 14 because his year started. He was about 2 plays away from getting put on the bench. And I think it was Lane. I don't remember. Coach was, I think, warm Jake up. Jake Coker was our backup. We went to go warm him up. And then he's like, Coach, he's 24 of 28 for like 280, like 4 tugs or whatever it was. It was something crazy. And Blake, we were actually, Blake and I were talking about this day. He called me today, and he'd thrown like a hitch so he threw a hitch or something like that into cover 2. All right. To Amari, and Amari took to the house or some shit like that, right? And which is obviously a no playing quarterback, right? And then he kept reading. I don't know. I still don't know if the damn wristband was wrong or he was just reading it wrong. He kept calling the damn wrong plays, and we were sending in wristband plays, and it wasn't even the same family of plays. Like he was calling, 21 personnel when we had 12 in the game. And calling, 12 personnel with 11, 10 personnel calls with 11 in the game. And so he's lucky. I told him, I said, how he got lucky is Nudie, Justin Fowler, is one of the smartest football players to ever play there. He's unbelievable how smart he is. He would just make him right. He'd just line up at whatever position we didn't have because he knew what everybody did. Like, that was the cool thing about Justin. He just made you right. He knew everybody's assignment. And so, hell, Nudie's out there lining up at down slot sometimes. He's playing fullback, tight end. And I never will forget, I need to go dig this up for the show one day when we talk about it. I need to find this press conference somewhere. I don't know if it was radio or if it was TV. Somebody asked Coach after the game about how awesome is it to have how multiple Nudie, all the roles we were using him in. That wasn't the plan, boss. And so when Coach lost his mind, I remember we had gotten a penalty down. We were about to score to either tie it or go up in the second quarter. And Derek, we had first, and we jumped off sides. So we had like 1st and goal from the 12 or something like that. And Derek just blows it up in there like Derek does. He was young, so that was the year before he won a Heisman. And now we have 2nd and goal from the 2. And so I think Lane called duo or basically double teams up front and letting Derek just cram it up in there. And hell, here we go. He's out throwing down. They line up in some weird ass formation, and Blake's booting out. And the whole time Blake's booting, Nick is losing his mind on the headset. What is he doing? What is he doing? And he ends up hitting Nudie for a touchdown. Okay. So here we are. This dude's like 24 of 28, like 3 or 4 tugs in the first half. We hit, I remember we hit Kenyon Drake for like a 70-something yard touchdown to start the game. He threw the bitch in the double coverage to Coop, and he scored. And Blake wins National Player of the Week for college football that week. National Player for college football that week, and he graded at 65% or like 63% as a quarterback, which has to be the all-time low I've ever seen a quarterback grade in 20 years of coaching college football. Never saw a guy grade that low. Like, you get pluses for handing the ball off. Like, I never saw a quarterback grade like lower than 77%. Dude graded like 63% and was the National Player of the Week. He threw for like 400-something yards that day. And it was like a high. I think we had 650 yards of offense or something like that day. Well, yeah, Blake had no idea that it was about to end before it got started.
So when everybody was cussing at Lane, run the damn ball, Lane, it was really Blake just calling the wrong play.
That game. that game. That game. But coach was funny. Coach would be like, run the ball. And then if that was Blake reminded me of a story. I think it was against Southern Miss, and I forgot we even played Southern Miss that year until he talked about it today. But I do remember we started off sluggish, and he was mad at Lane for he wanted Lane to run the ball. Then we started running the ball, and we had to punt early in the game, like 2 drives in a row. And coach came over there and said, "Hey, just run that fast shit that y'all do. Just run that fast shit." So he went, So he just had to get.
I love that impersonation.
Yeah, I've heard it a couple times.
Did he really? He just relented and said,
"Oh yeah, coach was great. Coach is always going to be right now. Coach is going to be right. Even when he was wrong, he was right.
Oh yeah.
We called it live bird, dead bird.
Man,
so he was great.
Siskey, I think you've piqued so much interest in the fact that Nick Saban's mafia power had the ability to delay a plane. I don't think you have an update on this, but I think people are wanting to know: did you ever catch word? Did you ever able to ask someone to find out what he did that day?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Can you tell?
No.
Yes, you can.
No, I cannot.
Dude, it's statute of limitations and all that shit, right?
No, that one's going to the grave with me.
God damn it.
That's
Patty, we already got to protect you, dude.
Hey, is it gangster?
You know it is.
I'll tell you later off the air. I'm not.
All right, good deal. Good deal.
Patty, we already have a protection order on you, dog. We can't.
I'm not allowed in Lee County.
Well, tell one of us then send a hitman at us.
No, I'm not. That's my dog, man.
I almost asked when Freeze called you during the whole Saban exchange, was he calling you from a massage parlor?
Wow, you guys, man.
I already knew it.
Y'all couldn't resist.
I couldn't do, man. I couldn't hold off. My bad.
Hold on. And you're an
Well,
old man.
we can't.
Oh, I'm
His
a
fingers
broken
aren't
on this man.
applicable after 4 p.m.
Tyler, I'm a really
Got
broken
lotion
on
on
this
them
man.
and stuff.
Y'all are terrible.
Tyler, I'm a former equipment manager for Bama. Shout out to Jeff Springer and Kyle Smith. You remember them?
Absolutely. So Springer's like, I love them both. Kyle will be at practice every day. He was the guy. He probably talked to Coach Saban more than anybody in the building. He got to hear him every day. He kind of ran the horn and everything for Coach, and then Springer, obviously the head equipment guy, and just good, really good people. We had a really good. There were good people there. Obviously Springer, Kyle were really good in the equipment room. Red was really good in the equipment room, and he's obviously at South Carolina now. Jeff Allen, how awesome is that guy?
Yeah.
He's the GOAT. He doesn't get the credit. Let me tell you, that guy, he doesn't get the credit he deserves. Right. He's the best to ever do it. He's the best by far. I mean, I've had other trainers I love to death, but
yeah. He's not quite stature worthy, but we'll build him like a wax figure.
He deserves. Hey, let me tell you something. That dude deserves a statue. I've said this for 1,000 years. I don't know what, and Dr. Kane too. I don't know what the Alabama medical team does. I don't want to ask questions. All right. I don't want to ask questions. I've never seen people heal like they healed that place. I mean, dude, Vinny, I watched Vinny Sinceri was awesome. First of all, when he was a player, my first year there, he tears his ACL on Halloween night. Dude went through pro day. I saw, Eddie Jackson tears his ACL in the freaking 8A game and opened the season, and we had a late one.
Kenyon Drake breaks his arm.
Yeah.
Like in 2 weeks.
Kenyon had that deal, but I saw it Derrick Henry. I don't know if people even know this. Not Derrick Henry broke his leg as a freshman in spring camp, in spring practice before he would. People didn't know who he was, right? He was an incoming freshman. He got kind of horse collared at practice and broke his leg. Dude was full tilt by June. I'm like, what the hell are we doing? And he'd be on there. They had that anti-gravity treadmill. Dude, I don't know what they do, but Jeff Allen is the go-to goats.
Well, in fairness, you also came from a place that I think sent players to witch doctors to get fixed and would never get healed. So,
Jeff Allen's the man.
It had to be a D lineman that horse collared him, because who in the world can horse collar Derrick Henry and not break me on?
Derrick still has the best line I've ever had a player tell me. I remember right before he broke, he's in spring and he's trying to learn the offense and all that stuff. and he was having a tough time with protections. And so at that time, our 6-man protection was like, we had base was like rock and load, right? Rock right, load left. And I was explaining to him, he comes back there and I would help him a little bit. That's a statute of limitations. You can, now it's legal now as of last week, but you're not supposed to be coaching when you're out there, right? But I was like, Derek, I was like, rock stands for R, right, load left. He's like, Coach, he's real frustrated, super nice guy. And he goes, Coach, he's like, let me explain something to you. He goes, since I've been 4 years old, when I'm in the game, they hand me the damn ball every fucking play. He goes, I've never blocked anybody in my life. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So I'll figure it out. And I was like, sounds good, boss. Go get him. It's like, great explanation. And he did. Have you ever watched his high school highlight tape?
Ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Religiously.
Like Derrick Henry, as you know him, was the same size then as he was in high school, playing against a 2A high school.
Right.
It was like, that was criminal. The people of Yulee, Florida should be ashamed of themselves.
Right.
They
Created a Derrick Henry rule.
They put children at risk down there. I mean, he was just a rolling ball of CTE running through the A gap. I
routinely joke, Tyler. I worked at the VA, and we would get the freshman class to come walk around the VA and meet the vets doing their whatever philanthropy stuff. And it was OJ Howard's class, and he was so boisterous and talking the whole day. So I kind of rapped with him. But at the end of the day, there was this huge mute dude that never said a damn word. And I'll never forget. I asked him, I said, hey, who's the defensive end that's been with us all day that didn't say a word? He said, oh, that's our freshman running back, Derrick Henry. And I looked at him, I said, you mean, and I'm looking up at these dudes. I'm like, so white dudes like me had to try to tackle him? All right, that's funny.
Oh, I think he had to have like 200 and something yards in one of his last games to break the national record. He went for like 450 or something like that.
Wow.
Like he was just, it was not, I mean, it just wasn't fair. I mean, and he was literally about the same damn size. And that's not a joke. I mean, he was big. A lot of people didn't think he was going to be a running back. A lot of people thought he was going to be an outside backer.
People in Georgia may remember it was a guy named Charles Grant. He went to Georgia he was similar to Derrick Henry. Yeah, and he ended up playing defensive end, similar size. He ended up playing defensive end at Georgia.
When I was at Auburn, we had Leonardo Carson at Auburn that ended up playing 3 technique, but he was a quarterback in high school.
Right.
How many people said Derrick wasn't going to be good in the NFL?
You know what? Derrick is but here's the thing with Derrick, right? And it's funny, it's like they still can't do it. You can't let Derrick get going. And
right.
You have to stop Derrick, you have to get him moving laterally in the backfield. If he crosses that damn line of scrimmage with his shoulders parallel, you're done. Just chalk it up. Just hold on. Like if he hits the line, even in the NFL, if he hits the line of scrimmage with his shoulders parallel to the line of scrimmage, it's a wrap.
Right.
And nobody wants it. And he's flexible. His lower half is not as big. I mean, we talked about that right before. So his lower half is not as big, and obviously it's gotten bigger. But his upper body, he looks like a 3 technique for his upper body. He's
ended careers in the NFL before on his stiff arm.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Is like that stiff arm is almost like just to keep these. I mean, it's almost like a weapon of survival because they're going after him low. But if he gets, I'm telling you, if he hits the line of scrimmage with his shoulders parallel to the line of scrimmage, that's it.
Now, in hindsight, you're the Dallas Cowboys. You know what I'm saying? Him and Ezekiel Elliott on the board.
Well, yeah, and I will say that running backs are born with a certain amount of carries, right?
Right.
Let me tell you something. Ezekiel Elliott ran through us like shit through a 10-horn in Sugar Bowl.
Right, he did.
And he was a beast early in his career. I don't think he trained as hard. I think he didn't take care of his body as much as like Derrick has.
Right.
But I think when you're a running back, you're born with a certain amount of carries, and I think Zeke's is unfortunate. He ran through us in the Sugar Bowl like shit through a 10-horn. So, and we knew it was coming. We knew every play that they were running.
Was Derrick born with a certain amount of carries though?
That's what I'm saying. He's different breed, man. I mean, like I would have bet you anything you want to bet that he'd be done by now.
Yeah, there's always that exception to the rule.
I told everybody back then he gonna be one of the greatest ever. I've been a Derrick Henry fan since.
I'm interested to see him in Baltimore.
Right.
I want to see how that works out.
Jackson,
That's not fair. It's not fair because they can run an option play with a running back that can stiff arm your defensive end. That's not cool.
Lamar's got to show me, like, if they want to take the next step, though, they got to get him. I don't know what the deal is with him. He's really, if you look at his numbers, he really struggles throwing the ball to the outside receivers in the NFL. Was fine in college, but I don't know if it's scheme. I don't know what the deal is, but I don't know what they're doing, but if he can start pushing, Lamar has to improve. They have to improve their outside passing game to really take that next step, because they got enough dudes to do it.
Well, Tyler, man, I think we could do this all damn night. I'm
good, man.
No, man, I didn't expect, man. I can't thank you enough for the time you've given us tonight. We would love to have you. We'd love to have you back during the season if you'd be up for it.
Yeah, just hit me up, man. I'm always up for it, because it's this or watching down America's Got Talent. So,
well, and rumor has it, since NCAA 25 come out, you haven't been to sleep yet. You're on a 7-day bender.
I stayed up to 2:00 in the morning yesterday morning. I got my Jacksonville State Gamecocks, man. We're 2-time national champs.
Man, let me tell you, I stayed up, man. So excited, you know what I'm saying? Got up that day to download it and realized I got a PS4.
Oh shit!
Well, Tyler, man, again, we appreciate you. We need to promote Title Towel first, man. We can't forget those boys that sponsor us. But we want to let you tell your stuff and all that good shit. Matt, you want to do the Title Towel?
Yeah, if you're going to be in Tuscaloosa,
Whitwell Sports. Yeah, my bad.
If you're going to be in Tuscaloosa this football season, get you a Crimson Title Towel at wetwillsports.com, wetwillsports.com, Title Towel. The unique Crimson Title Towel, we will use it to beat those Georgia Bulldogs September 28th. So get you a Title Towel. Tyler, we're glad to have you. Shouts out your show. Everybody's a big fan of you and what you all do. So thanks for coming on.
You bet, man. You bet. Yeah, we McCready and Siskey. We are live at 2 p.m. Central on the MPW Digital Network on YouTube. You can just search McCready and Siskey. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, McCready and Siskey. We're live Mondays and Thursdays at 2. And then when football season starts, we'll go live 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. Starting here, probably first week of the season, we'll crank that up.
Good stuff. Check them out, man. It's all football.
Well, listen, guys, thanks for burning the midnight oil and hearing these great stories from Tyler Siskey. Y'all know how to follow the cast. We say it every week, but we're going to end on these 2 words as always. Roll Tide.
Lank.